The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Zerathia Prime. Amy gripped her seat and tried not to show fear. Around her sat dozens of other humans, all chosen to represent Earth in the grand tournament. None of them expected to survive. Amy was 25 years old with brown hair that she kept short for practical reasons. She had trained for 2 years for this moment, learning alien combat techniques, studying their technology, understanding their culture. But nothing could prepare her for what she saw through the window. Zerathia Prime was unlike Earth. The sky was purple with 3 suns hanging in different positions. Buildings floated in the air defying gravity. Creatures flew between the structures, some with wings, some with technology she could not understand. The capital city stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. The grand tournament happened once every 10 years. The most powerful species in the galaxy sent their best warriors to fight. It was not just about winning. It was about proving your species deserved respect in the galactic community. Humans had just been discovered 5 years ago. This was their first tournament. Most aliens thought it was a joke sending humans to fight. The Zerathians were 7 feet tall with natural armor scales. The Draconids could breathe fire. The Vorthan had 4 arms and telepathic abilities. Humans had none of these advantages. They were soft, weak, slow by galactic standards, but humanity had no choice. If they did not participate, they would forever be seen as inferiors. They would have no voice in galactic decisions, no trade rights, no protection from hostile species, so they sent their best, hoping for at least one victory to earn some small respect. Amy had been chosen not for her strength but for her mind. She had a gift for pattern recognition, for seeing solutions where others saw only problems. The military had noticed this during training. She solved combat scenarios that stumped veteran soldiers. She found weaknesses in enemy strategies that others missed. The transport landed at the arena complex. It was massive, bigger than any structure on Earth. The main arena could hold 200,000 spectators. Smaller arenas surrounded it for preliminary matches. The entire complex floated a mile above the ground, held by technology humans did not yet understand. Guards escorted the humans to their quarters. They were Zorathian soldiers, their blue skin shining, their silver hair tied back in military style. They looked at the humans with barely hidden contempt. One guard laughed when he saw Amy. She was 5'4" and weighed 120 pounds. To him, she looked like a child playing warrior. The quarters were basic, but comfortable. Each human got a small room with a bed and basic facilities. Amy set down her bag and looked out the window. She could see other species arriving. Massive creatures she had only seen in videos. Small beings that moved in swarms. Energy beings that had no solid form at all. That night, the Emperor held a feast for all participants. Amy wore her formal Earth uniform and entered the Great Hall. Thousands of aliens filled the space, eating foods she could not identify, speaking in languages her translator struggled with. She felt very small and very alone. Princess Lyra entered the hall and everyone fell silent. She was beautiful by any standard. 7 feet tall with perfect blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, colored deep purple with flecks of gold. She wore armor that looked decorative, but Amy knew it was functional, stronger than any Earth material. The princess walked through the crowd, greeting champions from different worlds. When she reached the human section, she stopped. Her eyes found Amy, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Amy felt something strange, a connection she could not explain. The princess tilted her head, studying the small human. "You are very small," the princess said in perfect English, her voice musical and strange. "Size is not everything," Amy replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The princess smiled, showing perfect white teeth. "That is what the Moldavians said last tournament. None of them survived past the first round." Amy met her gaze without flinching. Then they were not smart enough. Something flickered in the princess' eyes. Surprise perhaps, or interest. She moved closer, and Amy caught her scent like flowers and metal, mixed together. "I am fighting in the tournament," the princess said. "This is unusual for royalty, but I want to prove myself." "What is your name?" Small human Amy, she said. Simply Amy. The princess nodded. I am Lyra. I look forward to seeing how long you survive. Amy, as the princess walked away, Amy noticed many aliens staring at her. The human who had spoken to royalty without fear. Some looked amused, others curious. A few seemed angry that a human had dared speak to their princess as an equal. The next morning, the tournament began. Amy was scheduled for the 5th match. She watched the first 4 fights from the waiting area. They were brutal. The Zorathian champion tore through a Vorthan warrior in minutes. A Draconid burned its opponent until they surrendered. The crowd cheered for blood, for dominance, for proof of superiority. When Amy's name was called, she walked into the arena. The crowd laughed when they saw her, a tiny human female against a Kelvorian beast 3 times her size with 4 arms and skin, like rock. The odds board showed her chances of survival at less than 1%. But Amy had studied the Kelvorians. She knew they were strong, but slow. She knew their rock skin had weak points at the joints. She knew they had poor peripheral vision. She had a plan. The bell rang and the fight began. The Kelvorian charged exactly as she expected. Amy rolled to the side as the massive Kelvorian crashed into the spot where she had been standing. The crowd roared with excitement, expecting to see human blood soon. The Kelvorian turned slowly, just as Amy had predicted. Its rock-like body made quick movements difficult. She ran toward it, not away from it. This confused everyone, including her opponent. Amy slid between its legs, striking at the back of its knee joint with her energy staff. The Kelvorian stumbled. It had not expected the tiny human to find its weakness so quickly. The beast spun around, swinging all 4 arms. Amy ducked under them and struck another joint. This time the elbow. The Kelvorian roared in pain. Its rock skin was invulnerable, but the joints were soft, necessary. For movement, Amy had spent weeks studying their anatomy. Finding this flaw from the royal box, Princess Lyra leaned forward. She had expected the human to die in seconds, but Amy was still moving, still fighting. The princess found herself holding her breath each time the Kelvorian attacked. She did not understand why she cared about this small alien creature. Amy kept moving, never staying in one place. The Kelvorian grew frustrated. Its attacks became wilder, less controlled. This was what Amy wanted. An angry opponent made mistakes. A frustrated fighter forgot strategy. The crowd began to notice something strange. The human was not just surviving, she was winning. Each strike was precise, calculated. Amy targeted the same joints, repeatedly weakening. Then the Kelvorian began to slow down its movements, becoming painful. 10 minutes into the fight, the impossible happened. The Kelvorian fell to its knees, unable to support its weight on damaged joints. Amy stood behind it, her energy staff at its neck, the universal sign of victory. The beast could not continue without the use of its joints. The arena fell silent. No human had ever defeated a Kelvorian. The odds had been 100 to 1 against Amy. Some aliens suspected cheating, but the replay showed only skill and intelligence. The human had won fairly, using strategy over strength. Amy helped the Kelvorian stand, showing respect to her defeated opponent. This gesture surprised the crowd even more. Warriors usually humiliated their beaten enemies, but the human showed honor. The Kelvorian nodded to Amy before limping away. Princess Lyra stood and applauded slowly. Gradually others joined until half the arena was clapping. The other half sat in shocked silence. Their worldview had cracked. Humans were supposed to be weak prey animals, not clever warriors. Amy returned to the waiting area where other humans surrounded her with congratulations, but she noticed the other species looking at her differently. Some with respect, some with fear, and some with calculation. They were reassessing humanity based on one victory. The tournament continued for 3 days. Amy won her next 2 matches using similar tactics. She studied each opponent, finding their weakness, exploiting their overconfidence. Each victory made the crowd pay more attention to the small human woman. On the 4th day, Amy learned she would face Princess Lyra in the semifinals. The winner would advance to the championship fight. The news spread quickly. A human against Zorathian royalty. It had never happened before that evening. Amy trained alone in the practice room. She knew Lyra would be her toughest opponent yet. The princess was not just strong, but smart. She had won every match easily, barely, seeming to try Amy. Watched recordings of her fights looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything. The door opened and Princess Lyra entered. She wore training clothes instead of armor. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the artificial light. She moved with grace that seemed impossible for someone so tall. "I came to warn you," Lyra said, standing across from Amy. "You should withdraw from our match." Why, Amy asked, "Would you rather not earn your victory?" Lyra shook her head. "I do not want to kill you." Amy smiled. "Slightly, I'm harder to kill than I look." The princess moved closer. "You have impressed many with your victories, but I am not a Kelvorian or a Moldavian. I have trained since birth. I have never lost a fight. Neither have I," said Amy. "At least not in this tournament." They stood facing each other, neither backing down. Lyra felt something she had never experienced before. Respect for an opponent, mixed with something else, something she did not understand. She did not want to hurt this human, but honor demanded she fight. "Show me," Lyra said suddenly. "Show me how you fight." Amy hesitated, then nodded. They began to spar, not seriously, just testing each other. Lyra was amazed at how Amy moved. The human seemed to predict her attacks, ducking before strikes. Came rolling away from kicks that should have connected. "You read body language," Lyra realized. "You see the attack before it happens." "Every species has tells," Amy said, breathing hard from the exercise. "Tiny movements before they strike. Patterns. They follow you. Zorathians tense your left shoulder before you attack with your right hand." Lyra had never noticed this about herself. She attacked again, trying not to tense her shoulder, but it was instinct built into her muscle memory. Amy dodged again, proving her point. They sparred for an hour. Both learned about the other. Lyra discovered that humans tired quickly, but recovered fast. Amy learned that Zorathians had a blind spot directly behind their head, where their hair attached. When they finished, both were exhausted. They sat on the floor drinking water, neither speaking for a while. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was peaceful, like they understood each other without words. "Tomorrow we fight for real," Lyra said. "Yes," Amy agreed. The princess stood to leave but stopped at the door. "I wish we could have met differently," she said. "In another life we might have been friends." Amy watched her go, feeling a strange sadness. Tomorrow they would fight and one of them would lose. Maybe one of them would die, but tonight, for just 1 hour, they had been equals. The next morning the arena was packed. Everyone wanted to see the human face the princess. The arena was fuller than Amy had ever seen it. 200,000 aliens packed the seats, with millions more watching across the galaxy. The semi-final match between a human and Zorathian royalty had captured everyone's attention. Amy entered from the North Gate wearing light armor that Earth had provided. It was nothing compared to alien technology, but it was better than nothing. She carried her energy staff, the one weapon humans were allowed in the tournament. Princess Lyra entered from the South Gate and the crowd erupted. Her armor was magnificent, silver and blue that shifted like liquid. She carried 2 energy blades that hummed with power. Her purple eyes found Amy across the arena floor. Emperor Zorath stood in his royal box. His expression was unreadable. He had tried to convince his daughter not to fight, but Lyra had refused. She wanted to prove herself without her title, without special treatment. The emperor wondered if he would watch his daughter kill or be killed. Today, the bell rang and both fighters circled each other. Neither rushed to attack like in other matches. They had learned too much about each other the night before. Amy knew Lyra's patterns. Lyra knew Amy could read her movements. Lyra struck first, a testing blow that Amy deflected. They exchanged several strikes, feeling each other out. The crowd grew impatient, wanting blood, but both fighters ignored them. This was not about entertainment anymore. Then the real fight began. Lyra moved with incredible speed, her twin blades creating a web of energy. Amy dodged and blocked, but barely. The princess was holding nothing back. Each strike could be fatal if it connected. Amy tried her usual strategy of targeting weak points, But Lyra's armor had none. It was perfect protection, covering every vulnerability. Amy had to change tactics, something she had never done mid-fight before. She began using the arena itself as a weapon. Amy led Lyra toward the pillars that decorated the fighting space. She ducked behind them, forcing the princess to chase her. It frustrated Lyra to fight this way, but it was effective. The princess cornered Amy against the arena wall. Both blades came down in a killing strike. Amy dropped her staff and caught Lyra's wrists. This shocked everyone. A human physically stopping a Zorathian was impossible, but Amy was not trying to match strength. She redirected the force, using Lyra's own momentum to throw her aside. It was a move from Earth martial arts, something aliens had never seen. The princess hit the ground hard, her armor scraping against stone. Lyra stood up, something different in her eyes. It was not anger, but excitement. No one had ever fought her like this. Every other opponent had tried to match her strength for strength. Amy was doing something completely different. They fought for 30 minutes, longer than any match in tournament history. Both were exhausted, bloodied, bruised. Amy had a cut above her eye that dripped blood. Lyra favored her left leg, where Amy had struck it repeatedly. The crowd was silent now, watching in awe. These two warriors were giving everything. They were not just fighting, they were dancing. Each move led to another, in perfect rhythm. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Amy saw her chance when Lyra overextended on a thrust. She grabbed the princess' arm and pulled her close, too close for the long blades to be effective. They grappled, each trying to gain advantage. Their faces were inches apart, breathing hard in. That moment, something passed between them. Their eyes met and the fight stopped being a fight. Lyra could have headbutted Amy unconscious. Amy could have struck the princess' throat. They did neither. They stood frozen, holding each other in what looked like combat, but felt like something else entirely. The crowd began to murmur, confused by the lack of movement. Were they fighting or not? Lyra dropped her weapons first. They clattered on the stone floor, impossibly loud in the quiet arena. Amy released her grip but did not step back. They stood there, two different species from different worlds, understanding something without words. The princess turned to face the crowd, then looked at her father in the royal box. Emperor Zorath leaned forward, sensing something momentous was about to happen. Lyra spoke, her voice amplified across the arena. "I yield," she said. Gasps echoed from the crowd. A Zorathian princess had never yielded to anyone, especially not to a supposedly inferior species. But Lyra was not. "Finished, I yield because I have discovered something more important than victory," she continued. "Amy of Earth has shown me that strength comes in many forms. Humans are not weak. They are simply different." The Emperor stood, his face dark with anger. Lyra saw him but did not stop. "Furthermore," the princess said, turning back to Amy, "I have found something in this human that I never expected. Something that changes everything I know about the universe." Amy shook her head slightly, trying to warn Lyra. This was dangerous, revolutionary. The princess could lose everything, her title, her position, her life. But Lyra took Amy's hands in front of everyone. The size difference was obvious. The blue alien hands covering the small human ones completely. Yet, the gesture was gentle, tender. "I love you, human," Lyra said loud and clear. "And I believe you love me too." The arena fell completely silent. Not a whisper, not a breath, not a single sound from 200,000 aliens. The declaration was so shocking, so impossible that no one knew how to react. A Zorathian princess loving a human. It broke every rule, every tradition, every belief about species. Hierarchy. Amy looked up at Lyra, tears in her eyes. She had felt it too during their fight. The connection that went beyond species, beyond planets, beyond everything that should separate them. But she had never imagined Lyra would say it publicly. The silence stretched for eternity. Then one voice broke it. Emperor Zorath, roaring in rage, his daughter had not just lost a fight. She had destroyed thousands of years of Zorathian superiority. With 5 simple words, guards began moving toward the arena floor. The crowd started to stir, some shouting in anger, others in confusion. A few were standing to leave. unable to process what they had witnessed, but Amy and Lyra stood still, holding hands in the center of chaos. The guards surrounded Amy and Lyra, weapons drawn. The crowd was shouting now, some calling for the human's death, others demanding answers. The arena had become chaos, but the two women in the center remained calm. Emperor. Zorath descended from his royal box, his face twisted with fury. His daughter had shamed their entire species. She had chosen a primitive creature over her own kind. This could not stand. Stop, Lyra, commanded the guards. They hesitated, torn between obeying their princess and their emperor. She was still royalty, even if she had lost her mind. You have betrayed everything we are. Emperor Zorath said, approaching his daughter. You would throw away your birthright for this animal. Amy stepped forward, surprising everyone. She is not throwing anything away, she said, her voice steady. She is gaining something new. The Emperor looked at Amy like she was dirt beneath his feet. You dare speak to me, human? Your kind are nothing. Weak creatures who barely escaped their own planet. Amy did not back down. We survived without claws, without armor, without telepathy. We survived through working together, through caring for each other, through love that makes us stronger than you think. Laughter came from parts of the crowd, but others were listening. Humans had won several matches in the tournament. They had shown intelligent strategy and now courage. Lyra squeezed Amy's hand and addressed her father. I have fought many species in my life, but never have I met someone who fights with such grace. Amy could have killed me today. She had the chance, but she chose not to. That is true strength. The Emperor raised his hand to strike his daughter, but stopped. Killing or harming her publicly would make him look weak. Instead, he turned to the crowd. The tournament is over, he declared. The human is disqualified for corrupting a member of the royal family. No, came a voice from the crowd. An old Vorthon elder stood, forearms crossed. This is not your decision alone, Emperor. The tournament has rules. The human won fairly. Your daughter yielded. Others began to stand, representatives from different species. The Kelvorian, who Amy had defeated in her first match, stood and spoke. The human showed honor in victory. She said with respect, she has earned her place here. More voices joined in. Some supported the Emperor, others defended Amy. The galaxy was dividing over a love that should not exist. Amy felt Lyra trembling beside her. The princess had risked everything for this moment. Amy would not let her face it alone. She turned to address the entire arena. I did not come here expecting to fall in love. Amy said, her voice amplified by the arena systems. I came to prove humans deserved respect. But I learned something more important. Paused, looking at the thousands of alien faces watching her. Love does not care about species or planets or traditions. It happens when two souls recognize each other. Princess Lyra and I found that recognition in combat. We saw past our differences to something deeper. The arena grew quieter as Amy spoke. Even the angry voices stopped to listen. You fear humans because we are different. Amy continued, but different does not mean inferior. We bring something new to the galaxy. The ability to connect across any boundary, to find common ground where others see only enemies. A young draconid in the crowd stood. My sister married outside our species last year, she called out. Our family disowned her, but she is happier than following tradition ever made her. More stories began emerging from the crowd. Mixed species friendships, hidden relationships, alliances that crossed traditional boundaries. The galaxy was already changing. Lyra and Amy had just brought it into the light. Emperor Zorath saw his control slipping. If he acted too harshly, he would look like a tyrant. If he did nothing, his daughter's actions would spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Choose, father, Lyra said, loud enough for all to hear. Choose between your pride and your daughter. Choose between the past and the future. The Emperor looked at his daughter, then at Amy, then at the crowd waiting for his decision. The moment stretched endlessly. The fate of human-alien relations hung in the balance. Finally, Emperor Zorath spoke. If you choose this path, Lyra, you are no longer my daughter. You will have no title, no palace, no place in Zorathian society. Lyra did not hesitate. Then I choose love over title, humanity over tradition, future over past. The crowd exploded, some cheering, others protesting. The other humans in the tournament rushed onto the arena floor surrounding Amy in protection and support. They stood with their champion. But something unexpected happened. Other species began joining them. The Kelvorian warrior Amy had defeated stood beside her. The young Draconid who spoke about her sister came down. A group of Vorthans added their support. Soon hundreds filled the arena floor, different species standing together. It was unprecedented, revolutionary, dangerous. Emperor Zorath retreated with his guards, but the damage was done. The image spread across the galaxy instantly. A human and a Zorathian princess in love surrounded by dozens of species standing as one. Over the following days, the story dominated. Galactic news. Some planets banned humans entirely. Others opened their borders wider. Civil debates raged on every world about tradition versus progress. Amy and Lyra left Zorathia Prime together. They had no home that would accept them both, so they made their own. They traveled from planet to planet speaking about unity and understanding. Everywhere they went, they found others like them. Mixed species couples hiding in shadows. Children of two worlds belonging to neither, friendships that crossed boundaries but stayed secret. They gave these people hope and courage to live openly. Their love became a symbol of change, whether people supported it or not. The galaxy could not ignore it anymore. The grand tournament was never held again. It had revealed something more important than military strength. It had shown that love and understanding could conquer fear and tradition. Years later, historians would mark this tournament as the beginning of the integration age, when species barriers began to fall. Amy and Lyra became legends not as warriors but as the couple who changed the galaxy with 5 simple words. I love you, human words that made an arena of 200,000 fall silent. Words that started a revolution. Words that proved humanity's greatest strength was not technology or military might but the simple power of connection. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the tournament. Amy and Lyra lived on a small ship called Hope, traveling between worlds. They were not welcome on Zorathia Prime or Earth, but they had found something better. They had found freedom. Their ship docked at Kepler Station, a neutral trading post where different species mixed. Amy wore simple clothes that attracted no attention. Lyra had cut her silver hair short and covered her blue skin with a hooded cloak. They had learned to hide in plain sight. Station was busy with traders from 100 worlds. Amy bought supplies while Lyra gathered information. They had been hearing rumors about a resistance movement. Species who believed in integration were organizing in secret. At a small cafe in the station's lower levels, they met their contact, a Vorthan named Kesh, who had 4 arms and kind eyes. He had lost his position as a diplomat for supporting their cause. You started something bigger than you know, Kesh said, keeping his voice low. There are thousands, maybe millions, who believe in what you represent, but the governments are cracking down hard. Amy knew this already. 3 planets had declared humans enemies of traditional order. 5 more had passed laws forbidding interspecies relationships. The galaxy was dividing into 2 camps, those who wanted change and those who feared it. We need to be careful. Lyra said, the Emperor has placed a bounty on our heads. 10 million credits for our capture. Kesh nodded but smiled. Despite the danger, your message spreads. Every day more people see that the old ways are failing. Young people especially question why species must stay separate. They talked for hours about the growing movement. Secret meetings were happening on dozens of worlds. Mixed species colonies were forming in unclaimed space away from government control. Children were being taught both fear and hope, depending on their parents' beliefs. That night on their ship, Amy and Lyra received an encrypted message. It was from Lisa, another human from the tournament. She had stayed on Earth to advocate for change within the human government. Earth is reconsidering its position. Lisa's message said, many humans were inspired by what you did. They want to be part of the larger galaxy, not hidden in fear. There is talk of a new embassy, one that welcomes all species. Lyra smiled, the first real smile Amy had seen in days. Maybe we are making a difference, she said. They are. But the cost was high. Both had lost their families. Amy parents had disowned her for embarrassing humanity. Lyra father had erased her from royal history. They had each other, but sometimes the loneliness was overwhelming. A week later, they arrived at Haven Colony, a secret settlement on an unnamed moon. 2,000 Doyle. Beings lived there from 50 different species. It was illegal by every galactic law, but it existed anyway. The colony leader was Marcus, a human who had married a draconid named Syrah. They had 2 children, hybrid beings that should not exist, but did the children had human creativity and draconid strength? They were proof that species could not just coexist, but thrive together. You gave us courage to stop hiding, Marcus said, showing them around the colony. When you stood in that arena, declaring love across species, you showed us we were not alone. The colony was basic but beautiful. Different architectures blended together. Zorathian floating platforms next to human ground buildings, Vorthan spiral towers beside Kelvorian cave dwellings. Everyone contributed their strengths. Amy spent time teaching human strategies to young fighters of various species. Lyra shared Zorathian technology that helped improve the colony's defenses. Together they were building something new, but peace did not last. Long 3 months later, warships appeared above Haven Colony. Not from one government, but from an alliance of traditional powers. They had found the illegal settlement and came to destroy it. The colony had 2 hours to evacuate or face bombardment. Families scrambled to gather belongings. Children cried, not understanding why they had to leave their homes. It was heartbreaking to watch. Amy and Lyra helped coordinate the evacuation. Their ship could take 50 people. They chose families with children first. No one argued about species, everyone just helped. As the last transport left, Haven Colony exploded behind them. The traditional alliance destroyed buildings but not spirits. The colonists had escaped and would rebuild elsewhere. The destruction of Haven made galactic news. Some condemned it as necessary to preserve order. Others saw it as an attack on innocent families. The neutral worlds began to question if tradition was worth such violence. On the ship, Amy held a crying hybrid child. Her mother was Vorthan, her father human. She looked different from either species, but she was beautiful in her uniqueness. Why do they hate us? The child asked. They do not hate you. Amy said they fear you. You represent change, and change is scary, but fear cannot last forever. Love is stronger. Lyra piloted the ship toward new coordinates. Another secret colony was forming, this time with better defenses. The movement was learning, adapting just like humans had learned to adapt. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. A Zorathian noble had publicly supported integration and lost his title. A human colony voted to open borders to all peaceful species. A group of young draconids started teaching human art at underground schools. The revolution was quiet but growing. Not through war, but through small acts of courage. Mixed species, crews working together, children playing without seeing differences, scientists sharing knowledge across species boundaries. 1 year after the tournament, Amy stood on the bridge of their ship looking at stars. She was no longer the scared human who had arrived on Zorathia Prime. She had become a symbol, a leader, a bridge between worlds. Lyra joined her, taking her hand. They had lost their old lives but gained something greater. Purpose, meaning, in each other. Their love had survived assassination attempts, political pressure, and social exile. It had only grown stronger. We changed the galaxy. Lyra said, No. Amy replied, We showed the galaxy. It was ready to change. There is a difference. Outside their window, a fleet of ships appeared. Not warships, but refugee vessels. Hundreds of beings who chose integration over isolation. They were heading to build a new world where species did not matter, where love was not illegal, where children could be themselves. Amy and Lyra would lead them, not as rulers but as examples. That 2 people from different worlds could love each other, and that love could change everything.